Hello, boys and girls. Today I'm going to go over some examples from the 3 skills that you have this week, which is corresponding sides and points, identify scale copies, and the last skill is identifying scale factor in scale drawings. So let's start with corresponding sides and points. Well, first we have to talk about what the word corresponding means. You'll see at the bottom of this slide, I have the definition. Corresponding sides and angles are a pair of matching angles or sides that are in the same spot in 2 different figures. So here we have 2 rectangles. You'll see that side AD would correspond to side EH on this figure. You'll notice how I started with point A here, which means that I need to start with point E on this figure. Okay. Likewise, side AB would correspond with side EF. If I were to talk about corresponding points, point D would correspond with point H, point C would correspond with point G, point B would correspond with point F, and point A would correspond with point E. Up here it says geometric figures are similar if the ratio of the lengths of their corresponding sides are equal and their corresponding angles are congruent. So if we look at their corresponding sides, let's click on that. Okay, so here they've got the ratio of AB over EF equals the ratio of AD over EH. So let's take a look at that. So AB is 8 and EF is 4. And then we've got AD, which is 4, over EH, which is 2. Well, if you look, 8 over 4 simplifies to 2, and 4 over 2 simplifies to 2, which leaves us with 2 equals 2. Therefore, we can tell that they are similar because their simplified ratios are the same. Okay, let's go over a few examples from this particular skill. It says figure 2 is a scaled copy of figure A. Identify the point in figure 2 that corresponds to point M in figure 1. Well, point A in figure 2 is in the same place as point M in figure 1. Therefore, those would be considered corresponding points. So the answer here would be point A. Figure 2 is a scaled copy of figure 1. Identify the point in figure 2 that corresponds to point K in figure 1. So we're looking at point K, which means that the point in figure 2 that's going to correspond with it would be point A. So your answer here would be point A. Figure 2 is a scaled copy of figure 1. Identify the side in figure 2 that corresponds to side BC. So we're looking at this side right here, which means that the side that corresponds with it is going to be side IJ. So the corresponding side would be IJ. Figure 2 is a scaled copy of figure 1. Identify the point in figure 2 that corresponds with point K. Now, you'll notice that figure 2 is rotated a few times. So you have to kind of visualize what it would look like if you were to rotate it back the other way. And you should be able to see that point C would correspond with this point. Point B would correspond here, which means that point A would be the corresponding point with point K. Figure 2 is a scaled copy of figure 1. Which point in figure 2 corresponds with point M in figure 1? Again, we have a rotated figure. Figure 2 is upside down. So if you were to rotate it 2 times to the left, you would see that point D corresponds to point M. Okay, moving along to identifying scale copies. So you're going to hear the term scale factor in a lot of these skills. A scale factor is the simplified ratio of any two corresponding lengths in two similar geometric figures. Okay, so the most important thing to remember is if your scale factor is less than 1, then your figure is getting smaller. And if your scale factor is greater than 1, then your figure is getting larger. So going from 6 to 9, notice that your figure is getting larger. Now, if I were to write a ratio of 6 to 9, that would simplify to 2 over 3. If I were to write it as the reciprocal, let's do that in blue, it would be 9 over 6, which simplifies to 3 over 2. Now, clearly, 3 over 2 is greater than 1, so that would be the scale factor you would use if your figure was getting larger. Okay, notice I have right here, going from 6 to 9, you would multiply by 3 over 2. Okay, down here, if I'm going from my larger figure to my smaller figure, it's simply just going to be the reciprocal, which is 2/3, because we all know that 2/3 is less than 1. I think you'll get the hang of it once we do a few problems together. So it says, is figure B a scale copy of figure A? Well, you have to look at your ratios from each side. To get from 4 to 12, I'm multiplying by 3. So you would have to multiply each side by 3 to see if you would get the correct corresponding number. So 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 3 gives me 12 here. 2.2 times 3 gives me 6.6. 2.2 times 3 gives me 6.6 there. And 4 times 3 gives me 12. So yes, this would be a scale copy because you can multiply each side in figure A by the scale factor to get the side lengths in figure B. The scale factor in this example would be 3. From figure A to figure B, it's getting larger. Okay, is figure B a scale copy of figure A? So let's take a look at the height of our triangle, which is 3 units, and the base of our triangle, which is 4 units. Over on our larger triangle, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for our height, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for the base. Okay, so clearly to get from 3 to 6, I'm multiplying by 2, and to get from 4 to 8, I'm also multiplying by 2. So therefore, yes, this would be a scale figure, and your scale factor here would be 2, because from figure A to figure B, it's getting larger, which means your scale factor should be greater than 1. Okay, is figure B a scale copy of figure A? Well, let's take a look. I've already filled in some of these side lengths here. This side length is 6. Its corresponding side is 2. This longer side here is 11 units, and that corresponding side on figure B is 3 units. And then this side right here is 8 units, and the corresponding side here is 2 units. So let's look at the ones in red first. So if I'm going from my larger figure to my smaller figure, I would be dividing through by 3. In order for this to be a scale copy, I should be able to divide each other side by 3. If I divide 11 by 3, will I get 3? No. If I divide 8 by 3, will I get 2? No. Therefore, this would not be a scale copy because you cannot divide the label sides in figure A by the same scale factor to get the side lengths in figure B. Okay, is figure B a scale copy of figure A? Again, I've labeled the sides here. We've got a length of 4 here, and the corresponding side here is 2. And then in red, down in figure B, you've got 11 units, and in figure A, it is 4 units. So to go from A to B, 2 to 4, I would be multiplying by 2. If I multiply my red 4 by 2, do I get 11? No. Therefore, no. This is not a scale copy because you cannot multiply the labeled sides in figure A by the same scale factor to get the side lengths in figure B. Okay, the last skill this week is identifying scale factor in scale drawings. So let's take a look at this. It says figure B is a scaled copy of figure A. What is the scale factor from figure A to B? So the first thing you need to realize is to go from figure A to B, my figure is getting smaller. Therefore, your scale factor should be less than 1. So to get from 33 to 11, you are dividing by 3, which means your scale factor is either going to be 3. Oops, let me use a darker color there. It's going to be 3 or 1/3. And clearly, since my figure is getting smaller, it needs to be a scale factor that is less than 1, which makes your scale factor 1/3. Okay, again, they're telling us it's a scale copy. They want us to identify what the scale factor is. So I've looked at the base of figure A is 6 units. The base of figure B is 3 units. They're asking you what the scale factor is going from A to B. Again, my figure is getting smaller, which means that the scale factor needs to be less than 1. Clearly, 6 divided by 3 would be 2. So your scale factor would either be 2 or 1/2. And since my figure is getting smaller, it needs to be less than 1, which makes your scale factor 1/2. Okay, again, they're telling you figure B is a scaled copy of figure A. They want to know what the scale factor is from figure A to B. Well, here, to go from figure A to figure B, my figure is getting larger, which means your scale factor needs to be greater than 1. To get from 10 to 40, clearly I'm multiplying through by 4, so that means my scale factor would either be 4 or 1/4. Since my figure is getting bigger, my scale factor needs to be greater than 1, which makes it 4. Okay, so those are the examples from the 3 skills this week. The correlating note-taking packet pages would be pages 39 through 43, top of the page. Again, you are welcome to watch the videos in Khan Academy if you would like to see additional examples. Please feel free to ask any questions in the Google chat or in the Zoom session this week, and feel free to email me with any questions you may have on these skills. Have a great day, everyone.